Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustabout Collector here, and today I am super excited to bring you the review of the ODST Drop Pod from Jazwares in the World of Halo line. When most people think about Halo, they think about, a giant green spaceman going and saving the universe. But when I think about Halo, I also think about a giant green spaceman saving the universe. But then I think about my favorite piece of the Halo franchise, and that is Halo 3 ODST. I love the original games, I still play them all to this day, but when I played Halo 3 ODST, something just resonated a little bit deeper with me. Maybe it's because you're more of a faceless, nameless, voiceless character, so you can put yourself in the shoes of the rookie, and maybe it's just because of the whole noir aesthetic with the jazz music playing. I don't know what it was exactly, but ODST was my favorite game, still is my favorite game, and so seeing a ODST drop pod made in the World of Halo line is just perfection. It's everything I wanted out of this line, and I'm so happy to be reviewing this today. So this is actually the first vehicle we are getting in the Series 6 packaging, so it's in that more bluish gray packaging. Up top you can see the sort of watercolor looking design with the Halo ring extending into the background. You have this nice picture window where you can see the rookie action figure there. Some nice photography here on the front, and I also forgot that this has a play feature where the hatch blows open, so we'll take a look at that for sure. I will note though that this photo is probably done in like pre-production with maybe like an early copy of the figure, and so that's why the paint apps here you see are not replicated on this version of the ODST. Now, something similar actually happened with McFarland. They made a version that looked like this with the lighter gray chest plate and shoulder pads, and then they made a version like this with more just all black, all gray armor. I think this is truer to the game design, so I'm glad they went with that in the end. But either way, I mean, it's an ODST drop pod. I would take it if it was painted purple. The side of the box also has this really cool artwork of the ODST with his drop pod, and coming around to the back is something very exciting. Normally it's just like, oh yeah, these are the other figures we already saw, yada yada yada. And for this half of the packaging, it is. This is Series 6. I've been reviewing these here on the channel. You can check those out if you feel so inclined. But on this side, we have a very cool, I guess, announcement, because these haven't been shown anywhere else, but when people started getting this in hand, they saw these. So we have the Arbiter, which looks to be a repack of the Halo 3 variant, and we have Halfjaw, the Shipmaster, Ratos Vodemy. I cannot wait to get the Shipmaster. And then also, it looks like we're getting our first member of Noble Team. We have Noble 6 there with the Elite Zealot from Halo Reach. Another amazing looking pack, and my goodness, the World of Halo line is just cranking out some absolutely amazing figures, and I could not be happier about it. But we have talked about the packaging enough here. This is one pack that I just cannot wait to take a look at out of the box. And there it is, all out of the packaging. Now this figure pack is available through Amazon, and it retails for $21.99, which I think is an absolutely amazing deal considering what we're getting here. The figure alone is worth $10 because the single carded figures are always $10. And for the additional $10 odd, you're getting a functional drop pod. That is just absolutely amazing. I would have expected a pack like this to be no less than $25, and honestly, $30 was kind of what I was expecting when I saw this announced, but $21.99 feels like a great deal. I will link it down below in case you want to pick one of these up for your very own. I would highly recommend it, just getting my initial impression here. Now I gotta say, getting this out of the box and in hand, the drop pod is very hefty. It's heftier than I expected it to be compared to other vehicles in this line, and I guess some of that weight is necessary because the play feature here with the spring-loaded door functions based off these little pins up here, and basically the door is pinned onto there. You hit it down onto a solid object and the springs throw the door open. So I guess you don't want to have a cheaply made piece of plastic when you're hitting it into things, because that could result in a broken toy right out of the box. Now just looking at the drop pod and the figure side by side, they look really good together. I also like that they're scaled a bit better than previous drop pods that were made, so this looks very accurate to the game, and that is always appreciated. We'll start off here by taking a closer look at the drop pod. There aren't a ton of paint apps here, but the sculpt work is absolutely immaculate. There's all sorts of panelings and bolts and rivets little thrusters here up at the top that would slow the trajectory of this. And up front here on the front panel we have these white triangles painted with some nice weathering and the ODST logo there. I believe these markings are just meant to mark this as the rookie's drop pod. So potentially if we get more of these down the line, like I really do hope we get the rest of the Alpha 9 team from ODST, then maybe we'll get different markings or different colored triangles here on each of their drop pods, just so that they all are, you know, unique in some way. Otherwise you'd just be buying, I guess, the same drop pod 9 times, and I don't know if everybody would want that, it just depends. So I think having some differentiation, even if it's not necessarily game accurate, is kind of a cool choice. You also have these little side doors that open up like that, they're just on a little hinge there, and the clips on this door panel are very small, and it's just that way so that they fly off easily when you slam it down. But if you want to ensure that the door panel doesn't come off at some, you know, unwanted time, you can actually just push the spring-loaded element in and then push this button upwards until it locks in place, and then that spring-loaded piece is actually recessed in there and won't cause the door panel to pop off at random times. What I also love here is that the interior is also just as nicely sculpted. You have the paint apps there for the seat, and then the hand grips, and all of that is just really, really detailed. It looks absolutely awesome. Now there is one thing that's missing here, and that is just that there's like a parachute element that normally would come out of the top of these drop pods, in the game at least, and that is a cool feature, maybe a play feature that you could have that attached to the top, but I don't necessarily miss that piece. It would have been cool if that was included, but I assume that that probably would have added in, you know, a bit more in terms of cost, or maybe a bit less in terms of detail. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's one of those things that would have been cool to have it included, but I don't really necessarily need it. And now let's take a look at the rookie action figure here. For accessories, he comes with the suppressed SMG. This is a brand new sculpted weapon for this figure. It looks absolutely awesome. It does have the peg there on the side to attach it to the back of a character. However, the SMG is typically attached to the leg of in-game models, and there is no peg hole on the leg. That's a bit unfortunate, but they may not have been able to include that because of the thigh swivel joint in there. That may have, you know, caused an issue, and I can understand why that may have been left out. But the sculpting and detail work here looks amazing. We have some paint apps there to replicate the grips and the stock. Now this might be a bit oversized, but again, that could just come down to the need for certain tolerances and, you know, size to avoid any kind of breaking or making it too flimsy. That's kind of a problem when you get down to these smaller scale weapons. But I think when you have him holding it, it looks really good, and it just brings back so much nostalgia. Like, these weapons were some of my favorite to be introduced into the Halo world, and seeing them in action figure form is always welcome. I welcome any and all ODST figures into my life. And he also comes with what is our first look at a Halo 3 Magnum. However, this is the suppressed variant, which looks amazing. Again, a personal favorite of mine in-game. It was so cool to be able to play as a very stealthy character in Halo, which has typically just been, you know, charging in as a super soldier. And now you're a vulnerable ODST, and you get these awesome suppressed weapons. Of the 2 weapons included in this pack, I think this one is scaled much more accurately and looks really sleek. I don't mind that it's missing any paint apps because it works. It looks very, very nice this way, just cast in all black. And also his backpack is removable. It's also on that little peg there, so it's technically an accessory. I would count it as such. If you do want to mount the SMG on his back, you absolutely can do that. It's an unfortunate trade-off that you have to decide between the backpack or the SMG, but I prefer it this way versus, you know, having a hole drilled in the back of the backpack so that you could mount the weapon there. That would just look kind of weird. Now then, taking a look at the figure, I think it's going to be hard not to just love everything about it because it's an ODST, and I love ODSTs, so I will refrain from being too biased about this. I think the paint apps look really nice here, the camouflage looks good, all the little decals with the UNSC logo there, and a small UNSC logo there on the side of the chest plate. Some of the buckles are painted, and his little grenade canisters also have straps painted on there. All in all, I think they really captured the look of the rookie. I think they got all the markings right. I haven't necessarily gone in and studied them super closely, but it looks good to me. It looks close to the game. Halo 3 ODST really bulked up the character models. They gave them a lot of canisters and pouches and things, gave them a more tactical feel. So this will look different than the Series 5 Halo 3 ODST that should be coming out soon. I know it technically already released in Canada. I don't have my hands on that one yet, but I'm very anxious to do so because I want to do a comparison between the two of them. But I think proportionally they got that pretty accurate, you know, the broader shoulders, the more ammo pouches and canisters like down here on the leg. The only thing that I could really nitpick here is the helmet just feels a little bit too small. Like if you look at the figure overall, I just think proportionally the head should be scaled up just a small bit. Not a ton, like it's not super noticeable, but a keen eye might point out that that is just a bit small, especially if you factor in that a human head is supposed to fit inside there. All gripes aside though, I really like this figure. I think it could even be really awesome if, you know, a customizer came in, gave it maybe a paint wash over the gray areas, maybe added some weathering to the black areas. It's really got some good sculpt work going on that could just be made all the more better with a more personal touch to it. Now then, taking a look at the articulation on this figure, the head is a hinge and swivel, so you can swivel that all the way around. You can pivot it forward to there, and you can pivot it back to there, so that he can look up into the rainy clouds and listen to his jazz music moodily. The shoulders are also hinge and swivel, so all the way around to there. You can hinge them up to just about 90 before the shoulder pad impacts the body. Hinge and swivel elbows all the way around, crunch them into 90, which is really nice to see on this figure. The hands also are a hinge and swivel, so all the way around, in and out on both hands. There's a ball joint at the torso, which gives you a little bit of side to side, a little bit of forward, and a little bit of back crunch. The hips are ball jointed with the thigh swivel, so you can pivot those armor pieces side to side. The hip armor is attached to the waist, and it is a softer plastic, but still you can only get outwards to there. But you can pivot them forward to there, which allows you to get into the seated position that you need for the drop pod, and you can pivot them back to there. Double knee joints allows a really crazy good bend there, with the knee pad being separate, giving it a little bit more of a seamless joint there, and a hinge and rocker at the foot, so you can pivot to there, and then side to side rock it, which is absolutely what we've come to expect with these figures. I don't think there's anything groundbreaking here with articulation, but still, because this is a more armored character, I do appreciate that there is still a good range of motion. He can hold his weapons really well. Again, these more armored characters are a bit trickier to get well articulated without sacrificing detail, so I think they did a pretty good job here with this one. The rookie can be in some action poses while still looking down the line of sights pretty well on this weapon. There's a lot of photo potential with this figure as well, so it makes me really excited to see what the toy photography community is going to do with this set. I know several people who have ordered multiples of these, myself included, just so that they could have customs made or just have an army of ODST. Now this may not be the best World of Halo figure in terms of like articulation, and that head size does still kind of bother me, but it certainly has become my favorite. And again, that is personal bias. I love the ODST so much, so I will freely admit that that is just the bias, but it is my personal favorite set that we have gotten from World of Halo so far. I'm really hopeful that this pack finds success among the fans so that we can see the rest of Alpha 9, because so far, no brand has ever made all 9 of the Alpha 9. The closest we got was with McFarland, and they almost got all of them. They never made a Romeo for whatever reason, so we were one short of the complete set. So hopefully we see all of them made here with the World of Halo line. I would absolutely love that. But speaking of McFarland, I was really excited to be able to show a comparison between these two. As you can see, you kind of gotta scroll up a bit to see the top of the McFarland Drop Pod. Now, McFarland did a ton of great detail with their figures. The sculpt work was next to none. There was a lot of hand-painted weathering and stuff. Back in the day, it was probably a lot cheaper to do that. However, the scale between their ODST and the Drop Pod was just bonkers. I mean, this could fit like a Spartan Collection ODST better than it could fit the McFarland figure. Speaking of which, I would absolutely love it if the Spartan Collection made an ODST, but we'll just have to wait and see if that kind of thing happens. And unfortunately, as is kind of the curse with the McFarland figures, the articulation was pretty poor with this figure, and a lot of the joints, especially these wrist joints, were very, very brittle. Now, I've said it before in my reviews, but comparing McFarland to World of Halo on a one-to-one level just doesn't really work. They were made in different time periods, you know, in terms of world problems and production and inflation and just cost of production. It's a different world, and to get a figure like this today, we'd be looking at upwards of $20 per figure. So in the $10 price point range, the World of Halo is doing a lot with that budget, and I really do love that. Now, it is also worth mentioning that the McFarland suppressed SMG actually works really well with this figure. He holds it pretty well, though his grip hand here is just a little bit loose on the grip. It's just a little bit smaller than his hand. but still that looks really good and probably scales a little bit more accurately than the one that he's included with. But still, it's just fun to look at all the different figure variations we've gotten throughout the history of the franchise. This is the Halo 2 Joyride figure. I'm very lucky to have this one. I absolutely love it. Then McFarland made several different variations of the ODST, including one from just the Halo 3 campaign, and Mattel also made one off of the Halo 2 Anniversary design, but I could not get my hands on that one, and they are very, very hard to come by. And I almost forgot my very first ODST action figure, though he is quite a bit smaller than the others. Back in the day, I bought this Mega Block Halo ODST. He came with a functional drop pod, just like what we see back here. And yeah, this was the first ODST I ever got. So as you can see, there is a rich history of various ODST figures made by various different companies, and I am happy to collect any and all of them. Seeing a lineup like this just gets me so excited for what we may get in the future with World of Halo. I really do hope that they just keep repainting the ODST in every possible variation we've ever seen on screen. But since we're on the topic of comparisons, here he is next to the Halo 3 Master Chief and beside a Halo 3 Marine from Series 6 as well. I think they absolutely nailed the scale of these figures here. Master Chief should be significantly taller than both of the humans here, since neither of these have any augmentations, but Master Chief certainly does. Once again, we are just filling out that Halo 3 lineup, and I absolutely love it. I can't wait to get more Marines just to kind of army build those, maybe do some repaints of them. I definitely want to get more ODSTs. I have more on order, but they haven't shipped yet. And yeah, all I can say is keep the Halo 3 content coming, including Halo 3 ODST. Those are my favorite two games out of the franchise, so that is my cup of tea right there. I will buy them all. But anyways, that is where we are going to wrap up this review. I am so happy to have this in hand finally. I can't wait to get out and do some toy photography with it. So follow me over on Instagram if you want to see when that drops. I have a link down in the description to my social media and all that. The link tree will take you to all those different wonderful places. If you liked this video or found it helpful, please consider leaving a like. Also, leave me a comment. Let me know what figures you'd like to see in the World of Halo line. I just love to hear what other fans want and expect from this line. It's always good to hear about that stuff. And also, if you're new here and you want to see more of this type of content in your feed, hit that subscribe button. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, noon, or night, depending on when you're watching this video. And as always, I'll be sure to catch you all in the next video.